Welcome to the Awakened Goddess Show, your source for inspiration, wisdom, and personal discovery. The place to learn from a diverse mix of mentors, metaphysical experts, spiritual leaders, and best-selling authors from around the world. I'm Angela Wilkinson, intuitive coach and founder of the Awakened Goddess Academy. Join me as I explore the minds of my masterful guests while they share powerful insights and easy-to-use tools you can start using right away. Now, let's tap into the energy of the Awakened Goddess and be enlightened by today's guest. Dianne and Alan Collins have been partners in life and in business for more than 20 years. They consult visionary leaders and senior executives in the world's leading corporations to go beyond hidden limits of their thinking, accelerating results and catapulting nonlinear achievements. They have presented unique quantum think coaching programs to tens of thousands of people worldwide. Their clients have included some of the largest corporations, the U.S. government, as well as entrepreneurs and politicos, homemakers and students, celebrities and evolutionaries worldwide. Together, Dianne and Alan's wide range of experiences, from receiving the teachings of enlightened masters to partying with the rock stars, give them a big picture view and a unique connection with people of all ages, cultures, and perspectives. Now let's welcome Dianne and Alan to the show. Welcome to this episode of the Awakened Goddess Show, where we co-create powerful conscious conversations on the leading edge. Today I have Dianne returning back to the show with her husband Alan, and they are a super power team. They work with celebrities and high-level executives and coach them to catapult their lives in unprecedented ways. And I'm so excited to have you guys on the show. Dianne, we had such a phenomenal time. You've been one of my favorite guests on the show. And we
That's so good because you're one of my favorite hosts.
Awesome.
Mutual, right?
Yeah. It's like we were talking before we started recording, and we definitely have this kinship. We've only talked just a handful of times, and it feels like we're long lost besties. So
It does. Totally.
yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for having us both.
Yeah, definitely. And Ellen, I'm so excited to have you here because Dianne was raving about you and your work on the show last time. And so I'm really excited to have you guys join me and talk about your work as a team and what we can do in this quantum field, because I know that the possibilities are endless, and so I'm excited to explore that even deeper. So, welcome.
To be here.
Yeah, good. So, one of the things that we talked about last time, Dianne and I, we talked about the difference between an intent and an intention. And I tell you, that was something that was such a huge aha for me, because, all these years I was setting an intent or an intention and not really feeling connected with it and not finding I was manifesting with my intentions. So it was kind of like this statement, but there was nothing, it didn't really feel active. So it was interesting. I would love to have you guys talk about that again, the difference between intent and intention and how that really powers up our ability to manifest.
Great. For me, it's a very important distinction, and it's one that came through me, obviously, but let me say what it is for everyone. And what it relates to is the fact that we're living fully dimensionally. Now, your viewers, I know, realize that it's not just two dimensions either, material and spiritual. We're living, I designate 7. In the physical, energetic, subtle energy field, in the spiritual realm of the heart, in the virtual realm of mind and consciousness, in the cosmic realm of the operating laws and universal laws, in the, esoteric realm of the soul, and the divine realm of the all that is, right? That ultimate mystery. So When you're talking about intent and intention, we're really talking about manifestation. And so we know that that relates to, well, resonance. How do we know that everything at its core is geometric and it's energetic and it resonates? So what resonates in a similar frequency range is what we're going to attract. So when we talk about goals, sometimes we say it very specifically. Like I always use, I want to make $1 million in my business this year. And so that's a very specific future end goal result. And this is what I would distinguish as an intention, a measurement. Whereas intent, I like to use, and we do in our work, in the more shamanic sense of activating the energy intelligent field that is from the feeling tone of our body in all those dimensions, and that gives rise to our personal resonance, that we know that there really is a scientific law called sympathetic resonance that attracts in the frequency range. So it's a probability wave. It's not a cause and effect, like I create my intent and then boom, something shows up. It can happen that way too. It's an infinite possibility. But the idea is that intent activates the field. It's an ever-present emanating force. Mm-hmm. And we're setting up that probability wave, that frequency range, so that that resonance is going to attract all the opportunities, people, resources, money, conversations that is going to give rise not just to that one intention, that one end future goal, but many results along the way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I love that because it really helps me understand how there's a difference between intention, that statement, and the intent, where it's a much fuller bodied experience. Like it's, as you say,
literally.
Yeah, mind, body, spirit. And you're really, the first time you talked about it, it was like, wow, yes, there's so much action and an intent. It's not just this stagnant statement, but it is an ever moving, ever changing, ever growing, attractive intent.
Right, that's what it is. It's an attraction. It's a force field of attraction. And that's, how would you say it shows up, Alan? Because you're using it all the time with clients.
Well, people want results in life, right? They want their goals. They want the intention side of things going good here. Yeah. People want results. But the question is, why do they want results? Well, because they want to actually have an experience. They want to experience more happiness, more fulfillment, more satisfaction, more love, more whatever it is. They want to have an experience. So when you make this distinction between intent and intention, you've discovered you can actually create the experience first with the intent. Mm-hmm. What that does is it really does energize the intention piece. Mm-hmm. Because you're now no longer having to do something to get somewhere. You can actually start off with the somewhere. Start off with the experience. That's something, and you're creating the experience. So it's obviously something that's going to resonate with you because you're creating it, right? And so that will have a very profound, and it does have an accelerated effect on the outcome.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Mm-hmm. Well, and it's funny because as we're talking about it, my hands are like vibrating and my body, like all my cells are just like doing a happy dance.
Right. We're resonating because universal law, and it's interesting that all the wisdom teachers and the channeled wisdom and, what we all know, say it as if, right? Mm-hmm. As if it already is that way. And that's how we say it. So when you have a statement of intent, you say it in the present tense as if it already is. And I like the way that Alan always asks our clients that, well, what experience do you want to have? And it's not just you, because we're working with relationships. Everything in nature gets accomplished through patterns of relationships. So when we're working with our corporate clients and with our entrepreneurial, it doesn't matter what clients, even students we work with, but a lot of times in companies, it has to do with whatever is going on. It has to get accomplished through being related. So Alan will say to them what he was just talking about. Well, what experience do you want to have in the relationship? What experience do you want your clients to have, or your customers to have of you? And that's where we work from in creating a statement of intent, because you say, well, I want us to be, simpatico. I want us to be excited about working together. I want us to, feel, even if we don't know what's going to be, what will come out of this client relationship, that something great is going to happen for both of us and for our businesses. And you form your statement from that you form the statement that we already are that. We're excited about working together. Because the least action pathways, as we call them in our business, the automaticity that comes from, we're not going to go into the details, but under that scientific materialism, lovingly calling the old world view that's shaped the way we think, thinking in static realities, thinking in circumstances, in the physical, we have to work around the physical rather than starting with where everything comes from, right? That dynamic of intent. So when you're looking at that and you're realizing, well, what are the circumstances of a relationship? Well, we've been working together for 2 years and we always have conflict and we're not getting along. And so you're holding that, what you said, Angela, you're holding that in your resonant state of being. That conflicts with your other higher-minded goals. And so this is the real importance of consciously creating intent.
Mm-hmm. Is that what they're talking about when they talk about cross purposes? When you say you want one thing, but then there's like maybe an old pathway or old pattern or something that your subconscious is wanting to manifest, and so it's like you're not able to manifest because they're at opposing, they're conflicting? Is that what you
right
mean?
Well, we don't really use the subconscious. We find a lot of people do. I have some ideas about that term that I feel it's a little antiquated, and what does it really mean? Because, where is this mysterious subconscious? Yes, there are brain connections. But if we think of it in terms of a quantum worldview, quantum thinking, we're thinking of it in terms of relating to ourselves as this resonant field. So it is conflicting because it's conflicting resonance, as simple as foot on the accelerator, the proverbial brake and accelerator, because we're holding more than 1 in 10 all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And so you can be holding that, or how you would say it. You want to give your peanut butter analogy, but it's like you're holding something like this is the way it is, like a static reality. Yet the nature of reality is it's not static and fixed. Mm-hmm. It's not absolute. This is a very important principle of a quantum worldview, that there's no absolute fixed reality about the way you are, he is, I am, our relationship is, the world is, the politics are. And that's the good news, because that's what gives us the opportunity to create. So when you say cross purposes, it is cross purposes from that perspective. And when you can become aware of, wow, I'm holding like, I'm never going to meet the love of my life, right? Or I want to, that's the cross purpose, right? I want to be with the one to share my life with, but will it ever happen? It hasn't happened till now. So you would just awaken, speaking of awakened goddess, awaken yourself to that thought as just a thought that you can interrupt and create new intent that displaces it.
Mm-hmm. Alan, did you want to say anything in response to that?
Well, not so much in response to that, but I think that first off, what Diane's really saying is that intent is always working. I know people tend to think that intent isn't working because it didn't work for them.
Right.
Because they create something, and if they can't make a distinction between intent and intention, that certainly would have a questioning thought for them about why they're not getting what they want. But also, intent is always working, and to your point about cross purposes, it's either a default intent, one that you didn't consciously create, or it's a consciously created intent. It's one, and
or some combination.
And if you're not aware, you don't have the level of awareness about the default intent. The default intent, in most cases, will be stronger than the intent because it's been there a while.
Yeah.
So it's had time to hang out and find its way and do its work, right?
Yeah.
So it's important to have enough conscious awareness, and that's why I think quantum thinking is rather cool, because you're dealing with two systems of thinking, and one is an old system, and once you understand how the system is playing out and the laws of that system work to actually give you a default intent, and you can see it, and then you have a new system. That's the key. Is people often can catch their limiting thoughts, but they don't have anywhere else to go. To do anything. What am I going to do with it? Maybe I should stop having it, but you can't stop having it because it gets there before you do.
Yeah.
So it's like it's too late, right? So it's not about trying to get rid of these default intents or limiting thoughts. It's a matter of being able to be aware of them so you can create a new relationship with them. And that's what quantum think enables people to do, is to create a new relationship with what would be a default intent or a limited thought. And, so you don't have to get rid of anything. You don't have to change anything. You don't have to fix yourself. You're not a bad person if you had a bad thought. It's just these thoughts are visiting, and that's it, really. They're nobody in their right mind is going to create a limiting thought.
Right.
Conscious.
And you don't have to ask them to dance. Hang out with them.
That's exactly right.
Right.
That's it.
So when we're talking about the resonance, how do we get in more resonance and congruence with our intent, our desired intent?
Well, to me, it's instantaneous. It's just you're making that choice to live from that intent. Now, here's what I like to say it like this. From the two very important things from a quantum perspective is that we already talked about one, there's no absolute fixed way that something is. So what creates the reality then? What creates that experience of being in tune with your intent or really being fully, right, in the experience of it? That is, we would say, reality is context dependent. The context that you're choosing to operate from in your life. And so you could wake up in the morning, and I always say, you could wake up, as Alan was talking about, in the default intent, what's going to happen today, or whatever thoughts that happen to visit, and I like to say, from the thoughtosphere. Or you could wake up and say, wow, today is a fantastic day. I like the word glorious, so I use that as my intent for the day. Today is a glorious day. Do I know, maybe you have a schedule for the day or whatever, but you don't know exactly what's going to unfold. But if you're operating from that context, from that stated conscious intent, it's like, it's not based in circumstances. It's based in, I'm choosing to live from that, not because it's the truth. And, this is an important thing. It doesn't fit into true or false evidence base. That would be the scientific materialism of the industrial age worldview that Alan was talking about. We think in a system, and when we need that system too, it teaches us ordinary logic, analysis, how to, categorize, organize life. But for creating, it keeps us in the quote box. And so when you want to create from a quantum worldview, what is it? It's infinite possibility in every moment. There are an infinite number of ways that we can land on reality, that we can, what do they call the coordinates, right? I was thinking of coordinates for some reason. I think in geometry, like that. You're right. You're latching on to today's a glorious day, not because what happened yesterday, not because I know what's going to happen, but because that's what I'm choosing to resonate. And then will some, unwanted stuff come up in that context? Maybe. But you have enough centered focus, clarity, awareness that you are a choice in how you're going to be related to those circumstances. So I don't know that answers the question exactly, but because of these laws of mind, I like to refer to the physics of mind. That's how it works. It's like you create your intent with knowing that whatever underlying default intent you have is not the truth. You can't latch onto it a negative belief. And then it will increase. How would you say it increases?
I would say that, because you asked about resonance, right? That when you create the intent, it's important to be able to create an intent that you resonate with right away. See, if you're not resonating with it right away, it isn't going to resonate later. So it has to.
Well, I don't know if I agree with that.
Well, it doesn't matter whether you agree or not. It's just a matter of,
Because I think you could create yourself to resonate with it.
Well,
but I think it's easier if you start with what you're talking about.
But I think how I encourage the clients that we work with, is to create an intent that they can resonate with, particularly if it's an intent for somebody else. They could get away with not resonating with it with themselves because they got some hope in there, But when it comes to other people, because you can create an intent not only for somebody else, but you can create an intent for somebody else with somebody else, for somebody else, because it's all part of your reality. Your reality includes how you think about yourself. It includes how you think about others. It includes how others think about you. And it also includes how others think about others. That's all part of one's reality.
If you have the $10 million goal, but you can't even be around that level of wealth. I mean, I practice this with myself ongoing because, it's always going to a new place. I was brought up in a middle class family, so it wasn't that level of wealth. And so what is it like for me if I have those desires? And so the more consciously awakened we are in these areas, and this is the beautiful part of it, that feeling tone of your being, as you said, you walk in, you feel it right away, right?
Yeah.
And then what do you do with it? As Alan was saying, you notice it and you think, well, do I want to stay, being uncomfortable with a $40,000 table? I use that because it was a real thing in an antique shop there. And then, or do I want to cringe okay, well, right now I'm cringing at the idea of a $40,000 table, but you know what? not that I'm going to buy it, but can I just be with that fact of life, that fact of wealth? And you can take yourself to new resonances.
True. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's such a valuable thing that we can tap into is just noticing our response to those things that we say we want. And as we embody it or step into it, do we feel like excited and vibrant, or do we feel contracted and like, oh, I can't have that, or yeah.
That's right.
And you know what?
Yeah, you have to be able to feel that, if you wanted to buy it, you can buy it. You can't feel uncomfortable about buying it. It's the same thing going into a restaurant. Even forget about $40,000 tables. People can go into restaurants, and where do they look on the menu? Do they look at the food, or do they look at the price?
Yeah.
And they look at the food and they say, oh, I like that. Then they look at the price. Oh, no, I'm not paying $50 for that. So you can see the resonance is playing out all the time in everyday life, just the things that we do just on a regular basis.
Right. And you know what? I just thought of something about this that's an interesting nuance, because you know how we want to be masterful with subtle energy, right? With the ability to tune into subtle energy. We know energy can be converted, transmuted to a higher state or whatever. But a lot of times it's like you feel something, right? And you feel that energetic, if you get that, right, that pushback energetically, and then you think, well, that's not for me. But that may not be the, I don't want to say right response, but that may not be
the right conclusion. The right conclusion based on that response.
That's exactly right.
Right.
Because I think that happened, when Alan and I first got together, even in our relationship. It's like I had that, when I thought, we're getting close here, right? I think you had it too. We had it at different times.
Quite possible.
Yeah, I think you did. I remember it. I had it when we went to England, and I felt that kind of response that you would say. And you might say, oh my God, I had that response, like pulling back. Does that mean that energetically he's not the right one for me? But it wasn't that. It was like feeling that and having enough awareness to know, okay, that's a little fear factor kicking in, right? Fear of the unknown, fear of commitment. But something else feels right here.
Well, yeah, I've experienced that, so I know exactly what you're talking about. It's like that little bit of anxiety, fear, but the deeper awareness that it's the right action or the right movement to take.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I'm experiencing that with hiring people to support my business, because it's like I've been doing all these things myself, and so that gives me control. And then as soon as I hire someone else, I have to be able to trust them and hand certain things off. And I'm finding myself going through this process of resistance or seeing what feels good to let go of and what I'm like, no.
Well, that's why, you see, that's
very much relate to
that's
that.
why the understanding how intent works is very good, because you could see, you feel yourself going into a reaction about something, and in that moment, if you are consciously aware, you can be aware that you are, but then where do you go? This is what I was saying before. You could ask yourself, well, what is my intent here with this person? What is my intent here? What experience do I want to have with this person? As opposed to putting up with the experience I'm getting right now of being scared or however we label it. It's an experience, basically. Put labels on these experiences. But the point is that when you feel yourself going into a sort of contraction, if you like, you can be asking yourself, what is my intent here for me? What intent do I want? What experience do I want them to have? Because if you're having a limiting thought about them, they're going to pick up on it. and they're going to feel it. Now, they may not be able to articulate it, but they can feel it. They will feel your uncertainty. And they'll be wondering whether they should be working for you or not, too. So you're immediately creating a bit of a separation right there.
And I'm so glad you brought that up, because I find that this is really common with entrepreneurs when they're up leveling in they're increasing their prices, that they'll be at that point where it's time to increase their prices, so they do, and then because they're not comfortable with it, they energetically push people away. So
that's right.
What would be a good way to move through that, and so you're not having that that repelling energy?
Well, okay. You want to say? I'll say. All right. I'll go first. I think that this is where you got to do a little bit of self-inquiry and get in touch with your own personal value. We have a distinction in quantum think called the hollow movement of purpose. It's in Dianne's book, and it really allows you to get in touch with what your job on the planet is, with a capital J, so to speak. Your purpose on the planet. Nothing noble. You don't have to be Mother Teresa or anything like that. It can be just what you do. But what are the unique ways that you do it? And by really looking at this, you can get in touch with your value and what's unique about you. And if you're in touch with what's unique about yourself, asking more money for it is not going to be that challenging. And also knowing what I do for myself is that when I speak to the clients, I start to get clear about, again, because of quantum think, this observer effect, basically, where you can create your own reality, I'm able to listen, and I know what result this client is going to get. I know it. I know I can promise it to them. And it can be way out there, but I can promise it to them because I know where they're at, and I know what we're going to be doing, and I know when they make that shift, they're getting it. And that's it. So by knowing that, having that level of confidence, so you can produce the result for the client that the client really wants, not what they think they want, but what they really want. When you have that type of connection, you know what you can charge whatever you want, basically. So you're more freer to ask for more money if you're confident about the results you're going to produce.
Ooh, I love that.
It's not like just, I'm going to put my prices up because I've been doing it for 5 years and it's time.
Right.
That's not a good enough reason. I mean, that is a reason, but it's not one people with a level of conscious awareness are going to feel comfortable with. But if they're in touch with their own value about it and what they can promise the client, what they can deliver on, that is a lot easier to ask for the money.
Yes,
that
totally makes sense.
I have another view on it too, to add to that. One of I call my accidental careers along the way is I was a photographic artist. And so I did painted photography, and I would know, it's kind of, how much should I charge, right? Because that's not, what Alan's talking about, yes, that's true too. So it's a both and situation here. But for me, there's a certain rightness in terms of when you're in touch with wisdom, your own wisdom, universal wisdom, which we're always connected, that when it's right. It's like, right? That is the inner knowing that we have always immediate access to when we center ourselves in that meditative state as a way of life. You just know it. You connect to it.
But how do you get to that rightness?
I'm going to tell
when
you.
you've been doing it for 5 years, and that was the rightness. So how do you
it's intuitive.
deal with the rightness
I'm going to tell
that's going to follow?
Oh, well, I'll get to that. But in the painting idea, it's that, you could look at it and you say size, right? Well, if it's bigger, you charge more. That there is a certain aspect to that physically. But for me, it's like, I know what went into it. I know if I had a painting this big, but there was so that it's more intricate. I know what went into it. It wasn't even about the time. It was the quality. Then I knew that was a more valuable painting. And so it's something I would add that into the mix of this, the totality of the conversation. But what you had asked was, how do you work your way through it? And I wanted to address that. And I think it's not a working through. I think that, you know, we have some conditioning, especially when we're on, you know, we're on a spiritual path, we're on a path where we want to keep elevating ourselves in every way, in every area of life. And so, and we think of it as a process, but from a quantum think perspective, which of course, how could I be otherwise, that life occurs in quantum leaps. And it's an instantaneous shift of state. And you know how a lot of times, sometimes that happens serendipitously. We've all had it. I'm sure you have, where all of a sudden you realize, wait a minute, that I'm not doing that anymore. Or, wait a minute, I'm doing this. And it shifts like in an instant. Well, we can cause those. We can live the quantum leap shift of state. The quantum leap means it's an instantaneous shift of state with no pathway there. So there was no process. That's really, it comes from the science. There's no visible, traceable, well, how did you get from that state to that state? And I think that that happens through the power of intent. That's how powerful intent is. And so when I'm working with our clients, we work with our clients complementary but separately. And Alan really directs the whole thing because, you know, I like media, he likes clients. And I like clients, I love our clients. But he'll say, okay, I want you to work with this client. And then, you know, we've worked with many clients over the years, so we know them well. So when I'm coaching with a client and they need to have that kind of a shift that we're talking about, you know, we do our little, I do this old worldview, new worldview process where the old worldview is everything that's coming out of your mouth or your head about it, you know, the default intents plus the conscious intent, you know, I know I should be charging this much, but then again, I'm afraid to, you know, all those, and just looking at it as a field and then seeing the theme of that field. Well, I think I'm worth more. My services are worth more, but I'm afraid to ask because I'll lose clients or I won't get them. And then we interrupt that as not a truth, not an absolute truth, and then create a new intent. But first you have to know that, you know, if you're holding a negative belief as if it's the absolute truth, that is where we have to break up the reality. That's where you have to trick your mind of not facing how you feel or how you're going forward on the existing or past-based circumstances. So, but what I was going to say is when I'm working with a client and then we get to that point where we're creating, okay, they see the old worldview and now they're going to create the new. And I say, okay, that's it. We just shifted it. It already happened. Well, not when they go back and start talking to, you know, the client or their boss or whoever reports to them. It happened right now because I said much early in the conversation, two very fundamental quantum worldview discoveries or insights. One is no absolute fixed realities other than divine, but the other one is that we exist in fields. And you know what Alan was saying earlier about what we think about, what we hold in our consciousness, is the experience, how we experience ourselves, others, how others experience others. And we have an effect because we exist in fields, but we haven't been brought up yet until now to start relating to the field. And so what does that mean? It means we have an influence on the field. And it's a non-local effect. it's not located here.
Mm-hmm.
The field is where you have your intent and attention consciously. So as soon as you and I create a new intent for you with another person, right? Somebody you just hired, let's say, you already shifted it. It didn't have to mean that you were physically with that person, because you're the field.
Mm-hmm.
You're carrying it in yourself. As soon as you shift your state, the whole relational field shifts.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Totally makes sense. So I'm wondering if we can play a little with an area that I'm working on. Like, I have this vision for the show, and I would love to see if we can kind of play with this just for a few minutes, to see.
Let's do it.
Because I've had for a long time this vision of the show, traveling to a different location every month internationally and doing live interviews with an audience. Now, I can tap into that and imagine myself, even as we're talking, I can imagine that this is happening. Okay, so how do I pull that into physical reality? How do I manifest that? Because in this dimension, I'm not yet traveling internationally and doing live shows with audiences. So I know it's in the field. I know that it's happening. I know that it's all unfolding. How do I accelerate that movement or manifestation?
Do you want to answer?
Well, you go first and I'll follow you. I mean, I can
Okay.
if you want, but I don't.
Yeah, well, I think a very important aspect of conscious creation is looking fully dimensionally, and that's the physical. Now, you know that I'm an avid student of astrology for many years, and so I look at the energetic, the planetary trends. I listened to your show with the astrologer at the beginning of this year.
Yes.
It was great. And so I'm not an astrologer, but when I know that right now, I just thought it's helpful to people to mention it, is that we are the energies that are influencing us right now, all of us. And when I say right now, I'm talking about, because it's energy cycles, the planets come together, and it's, a 2.5 day cycle, a 6 month, a 20-year cycle. And sorry. And so in general, in these years that we know right now, we're in the transitional, we're in the shift. We've been in the shift. And now it's time for us to be moving forward in action. So the things that are affecting us is wanting to express ourselves in a new way, which you just said. Mm-hmm. It is wanting to live the dream, to have faith that it's going to happen. These are all key energetic terms I'm talking about. Having faith, living, seeing the dream, doing it in a new way that expresses ourselves based on what we've built within ourselves over the years. And the other things that are playing right now are the factors of relationship, which that astrologer, I don't know his name, who's on your show, mentioned
Mark.
it. Yeah. And Mark, and also organizational. So we need a plan. How do you get started? Is that you need to think through an actual physical plan. Okay, so you want to travel. It's like, what does your studio look like in all these places? This is where we get in the physical dimension, very important. Are you using other studios and just renting a space or sharing a space, or are you creating it? Is it on location? I like entertainment, so this is right. So I think about these things a lot. There's so many things you can do. Study with people who are already doing it, or talk to people who are already doing it. But to really think through it, because you're going to be living it. When you said, by the way, and I see things for people this way, it's part of my psychic ability. I saw it too. I had to share that with you. I did. I see it.
Yeah.
But one thing I wanted to say to you is I do see it. What I did see, I didn't see exactly how it would be, but I did see that it would be not exactly how you're thinking of it. I had to share that with you. Okay.
Okay.
It just, in other words, sometimes we have an intent and many results show up, but it may not fit exactly how our pictures of it. But it's okay, because our pictures are based on what we already know. And in the quantum domain, we know that there's, 10% that we can see or envision, and then the other 90%, which is going to arise to be in collaboration with our creation. So as you're thinking about it, how I would say to you first, I am saying it to you because this is real, that think about what do you actually want to be doing so that you are enjoying it. That's the whole thing. So a lot of people, they say, oh, I want to have this business. I want to open a restaurant. Okay. Do you want to stay up until 2 o'clock in the morning and get up at 5 to order the food and some people do, obviously, a lot of restaurateurs. But these are the things you have to get in touch with. What do you actually want to be doing? Because you get to create it exactly how you want it. But it needs a plan. It needs an organization. The plan is flexible. All plans are flexible in business. It's like a blueprint. And when you start to be in the field, I want TV. So what did I do? I signed up for an online course. It's called Masterclass with Aaron Sorkin, the great screenwriter, producer, playwright who's famous for, The West Wing, the Steve Jobs movie, a few good, I don't know if you know him, very, very famous and respected, probably award-winning. And it's like, I'm not going to be a screenwriter, but I'm going to put myself in the field of that business, because that will start, you're putting yourself in the frequency range, right? In the energetic resonant field. So
I bought myself a suitcase.
Okay, there you go. That's part of it.
Yeah.
And as you say, how do you feel the resonance closer? Is you put yourself in that environment. You put yourself there. You start looking on YouTube. Who else is doing shows like that? And you just start paying attention. Or maybe you start paying attention to, the people who are really the famous celebrity hosts. And so it's where you want to be. The first thing is, what do I really want? The second thing is a plan. And the third thing, these are just tips right now, is to put yourself in that resonant field so that you literally start to resonate with it. And the physical will start to come toward you.
In addition to that.
Yeah.
I'm curious. That
yeah. No, I totally get it.
In addition to that, what experience do you want from all of this? You're speaking about you want to travel, right? You want to go to different parts of the world. What parts do you like to go to, or are you thinking about?
Europe. Italy, France, London. Yeah. Okay. Start there, Australia.
Okay, that's good. So what experience, just imagine that you're actually there. What's the experience you're having in yourself in being in these different countries and meeting the different people and doing your work there, right? You want to do your work there. And, what experience...
She's doing the interviews around the world.
What experience do you want to be in for yourself? What experience do you think you'll be having when you're working with these people in their homelands and so forth? What does that mean to you right there, in terms of your own experience?
It is joy, fun, adventure. It's feeling like it's like a very rich, tangible life. Just multi-layered. So it's very textural to me. A lot of deep, rich connection. I'm finding this pull to take all of my interviews offline because I'm finding that when I do have that connection, it's just like thousands of times more powerful. So
really?
it's
Well, I'm
like,
glad you didn't take them off yet.
yeah. So it's just
But you want that physical presence. You want that. Now, wait. Now, maybe I wanted to ask you something about that.
So,
How do you want to be known? What do you want to be known for, and how do you want to be known? This is a very, very important question, especially Saturn and Sagittarius.
which is all part of the experience,
right?
Being, how you want to be known.
Like, how do you want people to experience you and be known?
And just before you even answer this question that Diane's posing, when you get off the phone with us today or off of this, I mean, that's really what you want to start thinking about. And when you get, you just gave us some of the experiences, you've got to go deeper.
okay.
Do you know what I'm saying? That's the first one. Because a lot of what you said, you can get right here.
Yes.
You don't have to go there for that.
No.
So you want to keep looking for yourself about what's the experience, the adventure, having an adventure, having,
fresh
the
croissant and
uncertainty.
tea.
Right. You want to keep asking the question of yourself because the answers, and what Diane was saying earlier about there's a rightness, she was talking about, when there's somebody, what fee do you put, what price do you put on the thing? There's a rightness to it. Well, there's a rightness that will hit you when you keep asking this question. And you can be sure that the first 3 times you ask it, you probably won't get there.
Yeah.
Okay, so that just to encourage you, not that you wouldn't get there, you might, I don't know, but the point is the more you ask, the deeper you're going to go, and then all of a sudden, boom, it's going to hit, and once it hits, you'll be resonating with that, and you'll start to see things, people from different countries, you'll run into them more often than you did right here, and things, you'll get in conversations with them, and opportunities will open up from the conversations you have with them right here.
Right. This is what we mean by many results. Not one.
That's the sort of infinite aspect of this.
Okay, let's go back to how she wants to be known.
It's going to go beyond your current pictures. That's why it's important to keep asking the question.
Well, and I love that because honestly, you've hit the nail on the head because I have the big picture and I can really resonate with that. And when I start trying to think about, well, where would I go first? Then I fall out of resonance because it becomes then overwhelming. So I love that suggestion. Yeah, to keep asking myself, okay, so if this is happening now, if someone handed me the money to just fly to the first place I wanted to go, where would that be? What would I create? What would that experience be like? So it's like, okay, you got your money, go, plan it out. So I love that because I think that will be, I can see how powerful that is to the field and attracting, becoming extremely magnetic. Yeah.
That's exactly right, because we deal in the physical. And this is what we forget when we're all talking about conscious creation. That physical part is also one of those 7 dimensions, right? So you have, your soul's purpose coming through here. You have the spirit of it and how you want to connect people. But it's all a part of it. We have to literally be living fully dimensionally to have the whole thing work. It's not just create the intent, sit back, and it drops in your lap.
Nice.
So, and it can, but it does take work. That's the other part of it now, in the energetic trends right now that are going on, the cosmic trends, is that we have to put the work in to have that dream fulfilled. But I'm very interested, Angela, to know. That's why I wanted to go back to how you like what you want to be known for.
That's a great question because I haven't really gotten detailed about it. I want to be known for leading edge conversations that expand consciousness and I want people to always have an experience when they watch my show, that they feel like they're here with us, that they are experiencing the same experience I am, and in their field, in their quantum reality, that this show helps them shift, up level, change something in their life. So I want to be known for creating those experiences for people all the time.
So that's good. So you just changed one little word there to make it a powerful intent. Okay. I am known for it. I'm known for, right? Mm-hmm. When people watch my show, they experience, right, an enlivening, an enlightenment, a transformation. I am known, and you just put it into the present tense as if you already that, because you said, how do you get it? That was the original question, right? Yeah. How do you go from the dream to the reality, to the manifestation? Is you are that.
Yes.
I am that.
Yes. And it's true because I do feel in complete resonance with it. So it is already happening. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. You guys, I just love you to pieces. We could just keep talking and talking and talking. And I'm going to have to come visit you and do a live in-person interview.
Let's do it.
For the next one.
Miami Beach is like a foreign country, really. You start right here.
It's a deal.
We have every nationality under the sun here, so you'd be perfectly fine here.
Awesome. Well, oh my gosh, if I could, I would continue asking more and more questions, but unfortunately in this reality we do have a time element. So thank you so much to both of you guys for joining me. Incredible conversation again. Thank you so much for giving. I really feel like there are so many pieces of wisdom and nuggets that people can take and really amp their life up. So thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Mwah.
Lovely to meet you.
You too. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Awakened Goddess Show. I hope you enjoyed today's guest and got something you can start using in your life right away. For more spiritual insights and to listen to more episodes, subscribe to The Awakened Goddess Show at theawakenedgoddess.com and discover wisdom that'll change your life.